Neighbourhood policing has come a long way since the days of Dixon of Dock Green.
Good evening, all.
The new generation of community police officers are on the front line.
Police, open up! Stay where you are now, stay there!
Fighting crime and taking down criminals. From inner city estates to suburbia. They're cleaning up neighbourhoods.
You're under arrest for theft. You understand that?
In this new series of Neighbourhood Blues, we have exclusive access to neighbourhood teams in Kent.
Do you mind if we have a look at the items you got in as well?
And get to find out firsthand.
We're not going to allow job taking to take place. It's as simple as that.
If this new style of policing really works.
You're now under arrest on suspicion of possession with intent to supply a controlled drug.
We'll be following them around the clock as they take on the concerns of local people.
OK, thank you for coming, thanks.
Tackle the crimes that make everyday life a misery.
Please don't drink any more from that, please.
And try to win back the trust of the public. Coming up, a cry for help from a pub landlady leads to a major crackdown on drug dealing and taking in pubs across the Isle of Sheppey. The neighbourhood team raced to the rescue of a baby living under the same roof as a suspected Class A drug dealer.
Stay as you are.
And proving that where there's muck, there's brass, police try and catch thieves raiding a local recycling centre, stealing scrap to sell for cash.
Driving into the containers, and it's likely they're filling some kind of suitcase.
The police have been challenged by the public to do more to tackle local crime and force criminals off the streets. New neighbourhood teams have been set up to listen to the concerns of the community and catch criminals on their patch. These are bobbies who are going back to basics. It's a great idea in principle, but the big question is, does it really work? Over on the Isle of Sheppey, Inspector Steve Griffiths is one of the biggest supporters of this new neighbourhood policing concept.
My message is very, very clear. I don't want people committing crime on the Isle of Sheppey.
As head of the island's neighbourhood team, Steve is spearheading the new drive in community policing. And his stand on neighbourhood crime has earned him an endearing nickname.
It is true that some people have referred to me as being the Sheriff of Sheppey. We're not exactly in the Wild West. I personally don't mind what people call me, so long as we're doing our job.
With over 20 years on the job, Steve has got police work in his blood.
As young as I can remember, it was always an ambition to be a police officer. One of the most satisfying parts of the job is seeing what we've achieved in terms of the reductions in crime. And I think the success is absolutely down to those officers, and is down to relationships that we're building with the community, which is driving down those crimes, because people are talking to us, giving us the intelligence, the information that is actually enabling us to make the arrests, to stop people committing crime and to stop them recommitting crime.
Steve and his team host regular surgeries and attend parish meetings where residents can have one-on-one sessions with their local neighbourhood officers to voice their problems and find out just what the police are going to do about them.
So they said, "What, how old are they?" I said, "No more than about 14 or 15, I said.
I'm in the back, so I don't see a lot of it.
One of the things that makes our country civilised is that you and I are on the same side.
These meet and greet sessions also give Steve and the team valuable information about the wider problems faced by the island and help them draw up strategies to deal with them.
I mean, I had an occasion when there was a problem at the top of the road.
Graffiti on residence fences, on some of the brand new equipment.
As well as using residents' complaints as the springboard for tackling crime, the neighbourhood teams must also maintain a very visible street presence in a bid to provide better security and peace of mind for locals.
They're on the streets, you see them walking along, they greet you and they'll always say, hi, how are you, and all that sort of stuff. It also makes you feel secure and that people are actually looking after where you live.
Everything else in your area, you're not worried?
During a recent surgery, some residents complained that their village pub was being used by drug dealers. With an increasing number of British pubs experiencing drug issues, Steve is determined to wipe out the problem on his patch. And he is driven into hard action when complaints from residents are backed up by a worried landlady.
Yeah, I could lose my licence for people using drugs on the premises, but more important to me is that people come here and they're safe. I'm really keen to keep up and go back to the old traditions of the great British pub, and part of that is keeping drugs out of pubs.
In response to the landlady's cry for help, Steve and the neighbourhood team are going to put a clean-up plan into place.
I'm not going to have innocent members of the public coming into a pub to enjoy their evening or their Sunday or whatever day of the week it is, to find their life blighted by people taking drugs. Steph, can we start talking in terms of perhaps doing some swabbing in a variety of pubs? Because it's mainly around the area, we do specific swabbing in the pubs in the village, and looking at the results of there, so what we get from them, we'll have a look at whether we run a little operation. If there is suggestions of more than one pub, then I'd like to do more than one pub in the same evening, so that we hit 2 or 3 pubs at the same time if possible.
Steph is tasked with doing some drug tests at pubs in the area.
We want to ensure that people who are using the pubs know that it's a safe environment to do so, and that they can drink responsibly without having the criminal fraternity try and ruin it for them.
Most drug taking in pubs occurs in the toilets. Neighbourhood officers are trained at capturing samples and processing them via an ion track machine, which detects the drug's unique DNA.
We've got swabs that we'll use on the toilet cisterns.
And Steph spots something that requires closer examination.
You've got possibly little grains of white powder. When I put the swab on top of the white granule that was on there, it broke up and became quite powdery. It looks like it probably could be cocaine.
The test swabs are bagged up and labelled for testing back at the station. The next day, Steph tests them on the ion track machine. It's a high-tech piece of kit, which every major police station in the country is getting hold of. It costs over £20,000, but it's now a frontline tool in the fight against drug abuse.
A reading of above 4 will show a high intensity of the drug, and around 2 a lower intensity. That's telling me that in the female toilet system there's a trace of cocaine at 7.27, which is high intensity.
Alarm bells are set ringing on the machine. A positive test for Class A drugs comes through for some of the pubs visited by Steph.
Again, you can see a high intensity of cocaine.
The positive results mean that hard action will now be taken by the neighbourhood police team.
We'll use maybe the passive drug dog on a little operation to go into the pubs.
The evidence of drug use in local pubs paves the way for a major operation and gives the neighbourhood team the go-ahead to send in the dogs.
There's a very strong indication on one of the gents in there.
During the credit crunch, even criminals have had to turn their attentions to new ways to make a dishonest pound. It may come as a surprise, but the local council recycling centre has become a prime target for thieves looking to steal junk metals and sell them on to a scrap merchant for cash. Over at Sheerness, somebody thinks they can get rich from stealing somebody else's rubbish. During the morning meeting with his neighbourhood team, Inspector Griffiths has been alerted to a string of thefts being carried out at the local council recycling plant.
Staffing-wise?
In some parts of the country, thefts at recycling centres are up by 20%.
Are we talking about then obs?
With thieves targeting a compound on the doorstep of the police station, Steve wants to put an immediate stop to the thieving.
So we've got an increase in a variety of different metal thefts.
Got a bit of information that the recycling centre is having theft of metal nightly.
Yeah.
If we find the nominals who are doing that, and then we can put the pressure on the outlet.
OK, well done, guys. Thank you very much indeed.
Challenged by Steve to stop the metal thefts, Steph tasked the neighbourhood team to carry out a nighttime stakeout operation. Copper prices have rocketed in recent months, meaning that the wire in Steph's hand can be converted into hard cash.
Basically what I'm doing, I'm going to smart water the cables. People are coming in every night, just simply snipping the cable off and stealing it all. When it's come for recycling, it belongs to Kent County Council, and when they come in, they steal it from KCC, and they take it down to the scrapyard and they earn money out of it. So this is what we're trying to prevent.
Smart water is a high-tech security marking. It works a bit like invisible ink. Each bottle of the water has a unique DNA. If a stolen item has been brushed with it, when passed under a UV lamp, it provides an exclusive match to the bottle the water came from.
Right, we have marked the property and now we're going to get into place and keep an eye on whether they come in or not.
The Sheerness train station platform overlooks the recycling centre and provides a good observation point for the police, out of sight of the thieves.
They're coming in there, they're just there.
Kitted out in their night gear, it's a waiting game in sub-zero temperatures for Steph and Ant. But just after lock-up at the centre, the teams score a result.
Yeah, he's moved to the bin to the right of that now.
Within half an hour of the site closing, we've already got someone in. They're climbing into the containers, and it's likely they're filling some kind of suitcase.
Ant and Steph split. Ant heads over to the bus depot to try and get a better look at the suspected thief.
Yeah, I've got entry to the bus depot.
From the raised vantage point of the bus depot steps, he can see that the man is on the move.
He's still in there, he's got a white bag over his shoulder.
The suspected thief fills a large holdall with gear and lowers it over the recycling centre fence.
Coming out.
Steph signals for the neighbourhood team to move in before the man gets away. The team converges to catch the man in a pincer movement as he attempts to escape across the train station.
Basically, we've got the guy stopped. What items you got in there, mate?
A cat's bed, that's all.
A cat's bed?
Yeah. Look at that, that's all.
All right. Are you known to us?
Well, no, not known to you, but...
You've been arrested for burglary before, haven't you?
No.
You sure?
Yeah. Go back a bit, 20 years ago.
The suspect is taken back to the station for further questioning. But the man's crime leaves Steph scratching his head about what to do.
He's not stolen metal, which is what we've been brought in for and what we've been asked to look at. However, he has stolen items from the recycling centre.
Further questioning reveals the man to be a repeat offender.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were in custody?
Ooh. March. I got told off for going in there.
March? Oh, you've already been in there before?
I've been told off for going in there, yeah.
Well, what we've been brought into is to deal with theft from the recycling centre. You've obviously helped yourself to some items,
yeah.
and that's why you're back here.
Yeah.
Okay.
During Steph's questioning of the suspect, a call comes in from the officers still on stakeout. It looks like another set of thieves are about to strike.
Just been informed by the DS, Neil Kimber, that they've passed 3 more people walking towards the recycling centre, so I'm going to get back out on the ground.
Steph now needs to hot-foot it over there before anybody else gets away with any scrap heap booty. The teams are on duty around the clock, with no job too big or too small. But nothing sets alarm bells ringing more than the news that a baby is living under the same roof as a suspected drug dealer. Over at Medway Police Station, an emergency warrant has been issued, ordering the team to raid a suspected drug dealer's den. Sergeant Lou Sherlock is heading up the unit carrying out the raid.
Go and do a drugs warrant, 2 occupants and a young baby at the address, and the information we have is that there's drugs there at the moment. We need to get there quick.
The situation is made all the more urgent by the fact that a tip-off suggests a very young baby is also living at the flat.
96 wraps have been delivered to the address. The drugs have all been cut up and they're going to be sold.
Lou lays out the plan to raid the property, mindful that there may be a child inside.
What we're going to do is we're going to park right by those steps at the top, which is basically the back of the building. Quick as we like, down the steps, try and stick to this wall and then stick to the front of this building.
The neighbourhood team head in convoy to the location. On reaching the destination, it's action stations.
Yeah, we're rolling.
The Medway neighbourhood team execute around 4 warrants a month in a bid to wipe out dealers in the area. On every raid, there's always a bit of kit they never go without. The battering ram or big red key. One hard swing of the big red key and it's open sesame. The team sweep through the property, looking to apprehend anyone they find and stop them disposing of any drugs. A couple is found in bed, and the team storm the room to stop them escaping or trying to dump the drugs.
Cover yourself, roll to your left, roll to your right. Stay as you are. You're decent under there.
The woman becomes hysterical, and the team have to restrain her and handcuff the man at the same time.
Where's the child?
For Lou, the priority is the safety of the baby.
Get you dressed in a second.
As the situation is brought under control, Lou breathes a sigh of relief. The baby sleeps soundly in the cot beside them, blissfully unaware of the chaos all around. The man is led away into another room for questioning. With the woman still shaken by the ordeal, the police attempt to calm her and reassure her that the baby is okay.
What's going on? Baby's fine, all right?
Please, no one's not taking her, please.
With the suspected dealer cuffed in one room and the woman held for questioning in another, Lou's top priority remains the welfare of the baby, and the anxious wait for social services to arrive begins.
Come on, getting this state isn't going to help you.
Still to come. Over in Medway, the search for Class A drugs continues, and social services arrive to assess the needs of the tiny baby found living in the house.
Parents are both being arrested. Somebody needs to look after the child.
The credit crunch strikes even the criminals' pockets as thieves hit a recycling centre to steal valuable scrap metal.
I just had 2 more people go over the fence.
And a major operation to crack down on drug taking in pubs on the Isle of Sheppey gets underway as the dogs are brought in.
Dogs given a very strong indication on their presence of drugs.
This new style of neighbourhood policing is all about getting back to basics and connecting with the public. One of the major breakthroughs in achieving this has been the setting up of community surgeries, where residents can drop in and talk to the police one-on-one.
Antisocial behaviour along the beach wall and things like that. A bit of fly tipping.
There's a lot of glass around alleys and rubbish.
Community policing is important. I think the fact that they're seen and their presence is a deterrent in general.
If you've got a complaint, they do pick it up and they do run with it.
A recent surgery saw some people complaining about drug use in pubs, a complaint that was backed up by a very worried landlady.
We have a lot of regulars that come in here frequently, and I make it well known that I don't agree with the drugs. This pub is definitely the heart of the community, and I want it to be a safe place.
Over at Sheerness Police Station, a task force of over 40 police officers has assembled. The neighbourhood unit are launching a clean-up operation after some drug tests carried out by staff in local pubs came up positive.
Persons involved in AFB and or disorder. Right, is everyone here?
PC Andy Dennett is running the operation and gives the lowdown on the plan for the night ahead.
Right, intelligence has shown that drug and alcohol crime is present in and around the licensed premises in the High Street. In addition to this, surrounding areas in the outlying districts of the borough have also experienced problems involving drugs, antisocial behaviour and violent crime. The way we're going to do this, we're going to target the public houses at the same time.
With the briefing completed, the unit assemble into 2 search groups, both of which will be supported by the sniffer dogs brought in to lead the purge. These sniffer dogs can cost thousands of pounds to train, and in the past, drug dealers have put bounties on their heads. This means that the dogs and their handlers need their very own protection officers.
My role within this tonight will be minding the drugs dog when he goes into the building to make sure the dog handler's safe, because he will be focusing on the individuals around the area and maybe not his own safety, so I'll be minding him whilst he goes around looking for any persons that may have drugs on them.
The operation is a direct response to calls for help from local licensees, who believe they are being victimised on their own premises.
Staff have requested our assistance where they've challenged people for drug use and supply within the pub, and they've been threatened with violence, also with weapons.
Splitting into 2 teams makes the best use of resources and also limits the ability of known dealers to tip each other off about the operation.
2 pubs we're going to do here, going to both pubs at the same time, get the place under control before we allow the drugs dogs to come in and have a look around.
The police convoy arrives at the rendezvous point. It's a discreet location, close to the first 2 pubs on the hit list. But it allows them to assemble out of sight. The unit gather and are given a briefing about how to target the first pubs.
We're going to do the... We'll go in, we'll have officers go straight to the toilet, see if anyone moves to the toilet, check the toilet, see if there's anyone in there. And the rest of us will just sit on go in and watch the floor, watch the movement of any people before the police dogs come in, to see if they get any indications of anyone taking any drugs or being in possession of any drugs.
Fired up for action, the teams head straight for their targets. 2 pubs are hit simultaneously. A tip-off has suggested that a known dealer may be at one of them and holding a stash. The passive sniffer dog goes straight to work, looking to pick up the scent of any illegal drugs.
Thank you. Is it all secure, yeah?
Andy Hill works with the dog unit and explains the powers they have at their disposal.
What we do is we don't actually search people with a dog, we scan the area around them for the scent of drugs. If the dog gives me an indication that person's been in contact with drugs, then that then gives us the grounds to search them under Section 23 of the Misuse of Drugs Act. On that occasion, the dog hasn't indicated on anybody in the premises, so we're not going to be searching on the grounds derived from the dog.
Despite a tip-off suggesting otherwise, no one in the pub had any drugs on them.
Those 2 lads, we've received a lot of intelligence in the past that one of them is dealing, but the dog didn't pay any attention to him.
Whilst Andy may not have had the result he wanted, one of the other pubs on the hit list is buzzing with activity.
We're going to now. There's other boys in here, I think.
And it's not long before one of the dogs picks up a scent, and a man is asked to step aside to be searched.
I've just been told by the dog handler that there's a very strong indication on one of the gents in there.
I'm more than happy for you to put a pair of gloves on and take me in the toilet, mate, honestly.
The man offers to be searched on the premises, saving everyone a trip back to the station.
I'll do a strip search, obviously you won't be able to come in. I'll shut the door.
The dog's given a very strong indication on that person's presence of drugs, so he's being searched under Section 23 Misuse of Drugs Act at the moment by local officers.
But the search of the man turns up clean.
Nothing. Just a used bag of cannabis, the bag being empty, left over there from his 21st birthday a couple of weeks ago.
If the man was found with cannabis on him, he could have expected at least a caution. But with strong intelligence suggesting that drug abuse is going on in pubs in the area, the team crack on with their purge. And it's not long before the sniffer dog picks up a major scent. as evidence of cocaine abuse turns up in one of the toilets at a pub on the neighbourhood team's hit list.
He's got a bit of a whiff of something and then dragged me into the toilet to follow him.
Back over in Medway, neighbourhood team leader Lou and her unit have stormed the house of a suspected Class A drug dealer. The situation is all the more urgent because there is a baby in the house. In the living room, Marcel and Mike have cuffed the woman's partner, who is the suspected drug dealer. Marcel sets about questioning the man.
Are there any drugs on the premises? No. Cannabis? Yeah, cannabis over there.
Is there anything else?
No. Just
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, of course, man.
As he continues to protest his innocence, Dave confiscates a Stanley knife lying at the man's side, concerned it could be used as a weapon.
I'll secure it in my back pocket, all right?
With the house secure and the man and the woman being questioned, the hunt for the drugs begins. The suspect looks on as his house is turned upside down, with no nook or cranny left untouched. Dave has been on the force for 7 years and knows that attention to detail is crucial.
It's a slow, systematic search of each room, pretty much pick a corner and work our way around, looking for voids, places where things can be concealed or hidden.
Drug dealers are renowned for creating imaginative spaces to hide their stash in. Everywhere and everything in the house has to be searched. During the hunt for drugs, there's an interesting development. The suspect's phone starts ringing and ringing.
Hello. You want 4 dark, 1 light? Oh, wait, no. Someone just phoned up asking for 4 dark and 1 light, so which means 4 heroin, 1 crack cocaine. So I'm hoping there is Class A drugs in the house.
The phone numbers are logged. They'll be investigated later on to see if they're linked to any known drug users. Back over in the bedroom, with the baby still in the cot, Lou makes an alarming discovery on the bed where the couple were found.
Turn your face away. Basically, we've come in to search her. We're trying to get her dressed because we've lifted her up. There's a package on the covers beneath her.
Lou opens the suspicious-looking bag up.
The darker ones, that would suggest to me that that's heroin, and the lighter ones are crack cocaine. So she's now been arrested for suspicion of possession with intent to supply, along with the chap in the other room.
The discovery of the drugs near the baby's cot is a matter of concern to the police. But the police are not welfare experts, and it's now going to be left to social services to determine the best course of action with the baby.
You know, this is how they live with a young child. It's not ideal, really.
The police are turning up more and more drugs in the flat, and the woman is worried about what will happen to her child.
No one is going to take your baby without talking to you.
The neighbourhood teams have to make tough calls in difficult situations. Much of their crime busting is based on information passed on to them by locals. Information that allows them to catch any type of criminal carrying out any type of crime.
Back over in Sheerness, a stakeout operation to stop people stealing from a local recycling centre is well underway. Even though valuable scrap metal is the target, it seems that in these times of austerity, people will steal just about anything.
What items you got in there, mate?
A cat's bed, that's all.
A cat's bed?
Yeah.
Back over at the council recycling centre, a hit raid is underway, and it looks as if it has all the hallmarks of an organised stealing operation.
Just had 2 more people go over the fence into the tip, and what looked like a male and a female. So we're just keeping an eye on them now to see what they're doing and see if they leave and where they go, and hopefully we'll nab them when they come out.
Yeah, both of them have got bags and both of them are now leaving the site.
The person in the black jacket has jumped over the fence, collected the property from the other one who was in the recycling centre. They've got a buggy that they're going to be transporting that with. If we can identify them, then we'll let them run, because we believe we know where the property's going, if it's the right people, because we've seen their names on the scrap dealer ledgers. However, if it's people that we can't identify, then we'll arrest them.
One of the officers makes a positive ID of 2 of the suspects, both of whom already have criminal records.
2 people have come in and we've now identified who they are. They've taken a lot of property from there. We want to find out where it's being handled.
The following morning, the neighbourhood team visit the home of the suspected thieves who were ID'd under the streetlights. A search of their property didn't turn up anything, leaving the police to believe that the stolen gear has been stashed elsewhere or has already been taken to the local scrap merchant. Steph is off to investigate whether the stolen metal has been offloaded for cash.
We are going to the scrap dealer. Some of the electrical items and metal that were stolen from the recycling centre the other evening, we believe, have either been taken here or are en route here. We're going to be using the smart water wand to check the property to see if any of the items that we marked up are here. We'll also check the ledger books to see who's been bringing items in recently.
On arriving at the scrapyard, Steph and his team are welcomed by the owner, who is keen to help them find out if the suspects have paid a visit.
Do you mind if we have a look at the items you got in?
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Steph checks to see if anything from the recycling centre that he applied smart water to is at the scrapyard, but he draws a blank.
Since the day we did our op in the recycling centre, there's only been 3 or 4 people who've actually bring metal in, so our items probably haven't arrived here yet.
The initial disappointment is countered by the fact that the people who stole the scrap from the recycling centre are going to be cautioned for the offence, and their names provided to all local scrap merchants to ensure that they don't offload anything without the police being alerted first. The final stop for the neighbourhood team is to pay a visit to the recycling centre to advise them about how they can upgrade their defences to stop people getting in and stealing.
Some of the people that we caught here, we stop checked them with a load more last night. They were in here, they spent a lot of time in the site, they're all using the front gate. There's a bit without the spikes on.
Yeah.
They're climbing over that.
My concern is that when the staff lock up and leave at night, Gary gets the train to Faversham. And as soon as he's on the train and it's pulling out, they're all waving to him.
Steph shows the recycling centre workers the holes in their fences, which are inviting the thieves in. Whilst understanding the scale of the problem that the depot faces, Steph is determined to show the staff that there are things they can do to make their depot more secure.
And it was this compound here. I mean, you can see, look, all the cut. Look, that's a new one. That suitcase there.
This little pile in the suitcase could be turned into cash. Not bad for somebody else's old rubbish.
That's what's being stashed and collected.
The recycling centre team assure Steph that the fence will be repaired pronto.
Hopefully, the work that they're going to do on the site will prevent any further incidents there. And later in the year, next year, they're going to be redeveloping the whole area, so we'll introduce security measures from then on.
Back over in Medway, the neighbourhood team have raided the home of a suspected Class A drug dealer. They've already found what looks like heroin and crack cocaine in the bedroom, and the search of the house is turning up further quantities of the deadly drugs.
Found what appears to be another wrap of Class A drugs, probably heroin or crack cocaine, around the back of the sofa, next to the baby nappies and stuff, which is nice.
With the mounting discovery of drugs in the house, the man makes a muffled admission to dealing.
Yeah, there's nothing else you're going to say to me, is there?
They told you to take the drugs, so now I've got to sell them. And he comes round and collects the money every week.
But it's hardly a confession, and Dave will take him back to the station to be questioned.
Made some significant statements in relation to the drugs that have been found on the premises. Those have to be noted, and I'm offering him to sign my pocket notebook to confirm what's been said.
With the suspected dealer being dealt with, all eyes turn to the safety and welfare of the child.
Baby looks clean, looks quite well fed, quite happy. The rest of the house is something else to be desired, but...
For Lou, the priority is safeguarding the welfare of the baby in the home. She's had to call in social services, who will determine if the baby should be taken into temporary care or placed with relatives.
The parents are both being arrested. Somebody needs to look after the child. What's going to happen, hopefully, when social services come out, Mum will be asked to sign the baby over to them. If she doesn't agree to do that, then we'll take out what's called a police protection order and take the baby into care for now until this is resolved. See you in a bit, guys.
With social services on their way, the suspected dealer is taken to custody for further questioning.
He's been arrested on suspicion of possession with intent to supply a controlled drug. A quantity of what we believe to be heroin and crack cocaine has been found in the premises. Also, telephone calls have been taken in relation to the supply of drugs.
Back inside the flat, social services have turned up. The baby may be taken into protective care. But before this happens, Lou has to break the news to the child's mother. As the woman comes to terms with what's happening, Lou leaves to tell social services that Class A drugs were discovered in the bedroom, only feet away from the cot.
The drugs were right beneath her on the bed linen. We're not saying that because they've got those drugs that they're necessarily using them. They might just be selling them to make a little bit of money, but they were literally, as she sat up, they were beneath her back. Okay. Obviously, foot from the baby, Class A drugs have been found. It's not ideal, is it?
As Lou takes social services through to meet the mother, the search of the flat continues, and Mike finds more potential tools of the drug dealer's trade.
A lot of cash in there. You're looking at a good £300 easy.
A phone belonging to the suspected dealer is ringing and ringing.
We haven't been in here long, and so far he's got 13 missed calls, so obviously he's a busy boy at the moment. There's a lot of people seem to be phoning up. So once we get back to the station, we get the phone downloaded and see what the state plays and see who's been phoning and see if we can try and link it to any drug users at all.
The social workers have had a chat with the mother. They're now exploring options which will mean the baby would not need to be taken into foster care, but could stay with family.
What the social workers do, they're very good. They will, wherever possible, try and accommodate that the child goes with a family member. So they're going to try and contact her partner's mum and see if that's a possibility at the moment.
As the search for drugs continues, downstairs an extremely disturbing discovery is made in the baby's pram.
I've had a search through the pram, and what I found is a wrap very similar to everything else that's in the property, that some of them contain drugs. It's disgusting really, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Despite being a very sad situation, with 12 years on the job, for Lou, it's an all too familiar sight.
It's quite sad really, because you obviously get quite a lot of young couples like this that obviously need a little bit of money. They're quite vulnerable when you get somebody who convinces them it's a good idea to sell some drugs for them, make a bit of money, and it's always these people that get caught, and rarely the dealer, unfortunately. And she's only 16, she's just a child herself, and she's now in custody for supplying Class A drugs.
Over on the Isle of Sheppey, a night of high visibility policing in a bid to crack down on drug dealing and taking in local pubs is coming to an end. But not before the team launches one final strike.
Received quite a lot of information that mainly at weekends there's a lot of dealing going on in the toilets in there, so it's definitely worth giving that one a go.
With the exits locked down, the dogs are sent in. One of them quickly picks up a strong scent and races into the toilets after a man.
The chap walked past, he also got a bit of a whiff of something and then dragged me into the toilet to follow him. I was giving a good indication on his left pocket, so we're just going to search him now a bit further on and see what happens.
The excitement the sniffer dog shows suggests the man may be carrying drugs.
Do you use drugs at all? No, not at all.
Been around anybody who has?
Warren, this one's us.
Yeah.
How long ago? Might be a good reason, mate. About 3-4 hours.
No drugs are found on the man, and he's free to go. But the search of a nearby waste bin turns up evidence of what looks like drug use on the premises.
There's residue of white powder in that one there.
the tenner over.
The evidence will be logged back at the station and an intelligence report made. Everyone in the pub has seen the length the neighbourhood team will go to keep drugs out. Despite no arrests, the operation has been a success. The landlords of all the pubs featured supported the police's actions, and the strong show of force has sent out a message to all dealers and users that drug misuse will not be tolerated.
We've shown support to the customers in there who are drinking responsibly. We've also shown support to the people, the staff who are trying to run these places, and I hope that we've shown that we're not going to tolerate drug use in the pubs.
All the pubs hit tonight will continue to receive the backup of the neighbourhood teams, who are determined to carry on supporting licensees and making the pubs a safer place.
Having good local knowledge and listening to local concerns can give the neighbourhood team an edge when it comes to fighting crime. But listening to concerns about crime needs to be turned into results. On the suspected dealers, no evidence was offered at court and the couple were discharged. The neighbourhood team continue to crack down on drugs in the area.
At the moment we can only see one of them.
The people caught stealing from the recycling centre have all received police cautions.
There's a very strong indication on one of the gents in there.
And the landlady of one of the pubs who called for help to clean up drug abuse on her premises has had no further problems since the sniffer dog operation.
You know, they've been around in the village and people have seen them, and that's a good thing.
Coming up next time. The neighbourhood team hunt a violent man suspected of assaulting his ex-girlfriend.
He bit my hand, takes the last £30 that I had.
The police try and protect the public from the Sheerness purse snatcher.
I just don't believe it.
A possible dispute between neighbours leads to door-to-door inquiries in search of the owner of a poison pen.
You've no idea who would have wrote this letter.
And a Chatham resident's complaints about drug dealing on street corners leads to patrols being stepped up.
No, stop, go back. He's just giving him something in his hand, definitely.